All right, thank you. All right, so my name is Raj, and I work in physics, astronomy, and mathematics. I'm a University Career Research Fellow, and I lead a program on climate interaction and future changes in the university. So today I would be actually showing you some of the work which we are doing and how it is linked with the COP26 and the way forward, actually, right? So to start with, this presentation is basically on two parts. One is on the climate change modeling and projection, the work which we are doing here along with our group, and then the second part would be the challenges beyond the COP26. So these are the 2 points on which I'd be talking here. So just to give an example here, from a distance, if I can play that bit, from a distance actually the complex objects can appear simple, right? So if you see Earth from from a satellite or so, it might look very simple, but if you just go close and close, then you find structures and which are very, very much complex. And just to give you an idea that what I mean by that, what I mean by that actually, we are looking here on the oceans and the circulation happening in the ocean, right? And suppose if somebody says that we want to know about the ocean circulation and all those things. So in case of a model or so, do we need to track every drop of the water? We do need that the scale and all those bits. So these are the kind of the questions actually which we are dealing with, right? So as I said, like from a complex object to very detailed structure, if you want to understand, you need something, a tool, right? So what happened actually, in 1824, Joseph Fourier actually started looking on the light which is coming from the sun. And he has seen that these are like, visible lights. They cross the atmosphere, they come and they go on the earth, right? And he has called, there's a dark heat, which is at the back, right? So it is reflected. That is called as the dark heat by Fourier. And it has to do something with the atmosphere, right? So how this atmosphere is governing the heating pattern of the earth, right? But he has no idea about anything, what atmosphere actually doing. So after 70 years, Svante Arrhenius has done some experiments in the lab with emission absorption phenomena, and he came up with the term that is called as the infrared, right? So the light which is coming from the sun is in the visible range and the reflected in infrared. And it has something to do, the atmosphere has something to do with those things, and he has termed this effect as the greenhouse gases which are actually warming the planet, right? Now, the way forward, we go further. In World War happens, and in 1967, Sukiro Manabe did some experiment with thermodynamics and the dynamics of the atmosphere and trying to see what will happen if these greenhouse gases are going to increase in the atmosphere, right? And this experiment told that if you just double the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere, you are just doubling the temperature, which is roughly about 2.3 degrees, right? So if you double the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, you are going to get a temperature increase of roughly about 2.3 degrees centigrade. So for this actually, this work which they did in 1967 has led now in this year's Nobel Prize. And it has gone to 2 people for the work on the climate science or the climate physics, and 1 for the particle physics. So Sukiro Manabe and Klaus Hasselmann has put the first stone actually for the climate modeling and trying to showcase with the use of models what will happen if you increase the greenhouse gas emissions. Right. Now just go to this year actually, IPCC has published a report, and I was a part of the report as a reviewer in that. And it has told that the climate is changing. And the signals which you are looking here, if I say up arrows, that means increasing, down arrows mean decreasing. So when I say up arrows for air temperature, that's rising. If I say down, that means the glacier volume is decreasing, right? Similarly, like snow cover is decreasing and your sea level is rising. So these are the clear indications, the clear picture of the change which is happening, right? And that has been well established and recorded. Now, just to give you a glimpse, actually, there are three things here I'm showing. One is the carbon budget, the left one, and then the CO2 concentration in the middle, and the global mean temperature, right? And the down, you are seeing the time variation, and it goes from 1850 till now, right? So if you see here, now as the time increases, this carbon budget, you can see it is increasing, right? The carbon budget increases, that means your CO2 concentration in the atmosphere is increasing. As a consequence, as I have shown in the last slide, once you have the presence of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, that is going to affect your temperature. So if you just see the right panel here, it basically shows the temperature increase. So you can clearly see that the budget of the carbon budget, how it affects your CO2 concentration or the greenhouse concentration in the atmosphere, and as a consequence, you are getting this temperature rise. Now, just to illustrate that, we use models. And when I say models, they are quite complex models. So that means we are trying to model something which is on a planetary scale. And at the same time, we are trying to disintegrate so many things like various physical processes and putting into those models. And we are just trying to solve them. And these models are not the flawed models. They are actually based on the fundamental principle of physics. So these are the fundamental laws which are applied in various parts of the physics. And these laws actually governs those models. So the model, something which is showing, and people have an idea that the models are flawed or something, just to tell them that these are not something which has came from the magic. These are something which are based on fundamental laws of the physics. Now, just to tell you, actually, when Manabe did experiment in 1967, he was having the model was not that complex. So that means it was not including all the processes and the different cycles, if you may like to call it, into the model. So if you see here, that gives you an idea that the global models, how it has came along with time. So in the mid-century model, in the 1970s model, if you see, there were no aerosols into it, no ocean into it. So that was simply a slab model. But as you go with time, you can see the last one. It has ocean, it has all the cycles actually which represent all the physical process on the planet. And at the same time, the models has gone, the resolution has gone quite high. So that means you have started with a resolution of 500 kilometers. That means you are looking on a planetary scale. Each grid box is 500 kilometers. Now you are looking at Earth, which is at 10 kilometers at 1 kilometer resolution. So that means you have detailed information about it. And the latest UK Earth system models, actually, they have all the components into it. So that means the most comprehensive model so far is the model which has participated in the IPCC report, and it has all the cycle, like you said, land and all those bits, and biogeochemistry. It has dynamic vegetation, it has aerosols, it has cloud, and it has every parameter which is known so far. The only thing I should tell you, actually, and this is quite you should note it, that is still the models are not perfect. So models have some deficiency. It is in terms of processes. It might be in terms of representation of different parameters and our understanding. So when I say model, it's not perfect. So still it has some uncertainty involved with that. And we need to go forward with our learning from different sources. Now, I would be showing some of the work which we are doing and our group is doing here. One is on the climate extremes, so like looking on storms, hurricanes, and temperature extremes, heat waves, and so on, and the floods. The second one is on work on agriculture, so like how the crops can be get affected by different pathogens, and these pathogens are not simply they are just localized pathogens. Our research shows these pathogens sometimes travel from Africa, destroy the crops here. So another thing is about the renewable energy. So one of our A colleague is working on renewable energy, on trying to see how we can best fit on that in the context of changing climate. And another is on the pollution and health. So just to give you a glimpse of that, this is a diagram. I would not say diagram, it's a snapshot actually of a storm which has last year struck over UK. And if you have seen these reports on the various newspapers, there was storms and flooding because of the Sierra and Dennis storms, right? And here is one of the model simulations. So what you are seeing here, jet stream is coming, and it is simply pouring up a huge amount of water over UK. So you can clearly see that how this is affecting, and the models are actually capturing those things, and you're able to predict them well in advance. Now the second thing is about a hurricane. So a cyclone, when it is in the Indian Ocean, that is called as a cyclone there. So that's a satellite picture, and it is basically reflecting cloud movement and how it is hitting over the coast. Now it has been modeled, and so if you see the purple line is the line basically showing out the track of the cyclone by the model, and the white line is basically the observations. So you can clearly see that how models are helping actually in a sense to locate peoples at a different place and trying to save many lives. Now the second part is about what will happen to different basins actually to hurricanes, and what category of cyclone or hurricane we are going to get. Well, the first plot here, it basically shows you the present day simulation. When I say present day simulation, there's a present time. So that means we are getting roughly about 254 category 4 to 5 hurricanes, whereas in the future, in the end of the century, we are going to expect and going to get more number of hurricanes, and with more severe category of the cyclones. Another bit is about the temperature rise. So the temperature rise, basically it shows you so that diagram basically showing you the observations still here today, and then all those projections by the model using different emission pathways, and how temperature is going to increase over time. So this study actually has been published, and it says basically we are going to expect more number of heat waves, which is quite evident now with IPCC report as well. It says that people are going to get more frequent and more intense heat waves over certain parts of the region. Another work is basically trying to tell you what models do, and what we use the models to do actually is trying to see what will happen if we don't put any policy interventions for the emission scenarios. What will happen to the health? What will happen to the air quality? Now this diagram is basically showing you a model simulation for 5 parameters actually, I would say. And this is the global change actually you're looking, right? And what it is showing here the observed variables, and the green one is basically telling you the natural drivers, and the red one is the human drivers, and that blue one is the combined. And if you see with time, you can clearly see, if I just indicate one of the diagram, if you see the last one here, it is basically ocean heat uptake. And you can clearly see the human influence on the ocean heat capacity, and it has increased, right? If you see this one actually, this Arctic sea ice loss, and it has simply human influence, you can see. So basically what I'm trying to say here, you can simply see the signatures of the humans' activity on the emission action. Now, something which about the COP26 and what happened. So here is one diagram which is produced by Ed Hawkins. I think you all be aware of that. So we targeted for 1.5 degree world, and we are looking for the perfect condition. People will satisfy with all those obligations. But actually what happened in COP26, we were not able to get that properly, right? So that means we are going to live in a world that means it would be roughly about 3 degrees warmer. And when I say 3 degree warmer world, if we don't take any COP26 choices in place, and if we go to COP27 and we don't put those choices in place. So that means meet in each COP activities, just discuss about it and don't get agreement and follow it up. You are going to get something which is quite puzzling, and it will be very complex at the end for everybody. Now here one of the thing actually what this diagram is showing you here is different Earth system models, and what it is showing actually that if you just simply put your target net zero, so that means if you say that today we are just agreeing and after that we will not emit anything, roughly about by end of this century you are going to reduce 60 to 110 part per ppm CO2 concentration by natural carbon cycle. So if you see this diagram basically showing you reducing here your atmospheric CO2. So the present day carbon dioxide concentration is 417 ppm. So I'm talking about today. If we stop today, all the emissions and everything, by end of the century, roughly about 60 to 100 ppm would be lost by the natural processes which are actually happening. At the final, I would like to say one thing, and it's about positive tipping point. So when I say positive tipping point, it's just the choices I'm talking about. So if you see here, if you keep the ball rolling, because this is a business as usual scenario, this is a business as usual scenario. And in this valley, if you want to just kind of like keep on going, and if you don't put any choices or any policy interventions, then you are going to get down, right, all the time, right? But if you put positive changes, which you discuss actually in different COP activities, if you put those choices here and put it in a way that it is all applicable to everybody and they are following it, so that means what you are doing actually, you are putting a barrier and you are putting just thing so that it should not, the ball should not keep down rolling actually, and you are just trying to stop it here, right? So it's our choices which are going to make the changes. And the main thing which I wanted to say is about these choices are so complex and people are not going to agree with each choices. So this is the part actually where all the problem is. So if we put more, if I would like to put a bit load actually, if you want to call it like societal load, then obviously you are just going to go to positive tipping point. So that means you're just stopping those things. But if you don't do that, then what is going to happen? This ball actually is going to go down, 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 and that means you are going to get more intense, most frequent number of climate events. And for those actually we are not prepared so far. I would stop here, and I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Fascinating stuff. Really, really interesting to see the way that the visualization of this can change the way we think about what's happening, focusing on different aspects of that. Yeah, so anybody like to come in? Let's talk to Raj.
Yeah.
I'll give it a go. One thing I don't quite understand, and this is the reason I'm asking the question, all the analysis and all the modelling that we're talking about at the moment is just assuming a global increase in temperature. Now, the Earth's got certain weather systems, El Nino, El Niña, and for us in this country, the jet stream. What's going to happen to them?
Yes. So actually, there has been a detailed analysis on that. So let's say what will happen to the jet stream if the temperature is rising, right? So you are going to get shifting in the jet stream, right? So like what happened actually, there are jet streams which are meandering around the planet, right? So you are going to those jet streams are going to get shifted, right? If they shift actually, then your weather pattern are going to change, right? So suppose if you are going to get like winters or the snow a particular time, you're not going to get them, right? Another thing about just about the circulation, because the weather is mostly driven by this Atlantic, right? So this Atlantic middle circulation, we used to call it AMO, that is going to collapse. So what will happen to them? So if that collapses, then actually the Gulf Stream, which is taking the energy from the equatorial or the tropical belt to the Europe side and making this region a bit milder one, you are going to get more extremes and more heat actually, because that cycle, the Gulf Stream, are going to collapse. So those are the things actually which are going to happen. So as far as the jet stream are concerned, or the oceanic circulations are concerned, or El Nino is concerned. El Nino is like mostly affecting the tropics because it affects the monsoon mostly, and it causes like droughts and floods because if you have a strong El Nino, then you get in South Asia less monsoon. That means you get more droughts there. But if it is a La Nina condition, that means you are going to La Nina condition brings more rain, and that means you are going to get more sort of those things. So those are the things which are going to happen. Yeah.
Just a follow-up. I thought that for a long time I've heard that the Gulf Stream is likely to diminish against Britain. So if it does, the logic seemed to be that Britain would be very much colder because it protects us from, it brings in the warmth from hotter areas. So is that not going to mitigate against the heating? I mean, it'll save us.
I mean, in a sense, we can say, but the thing is that we don't know so many things actually about it, because if suppose there is Gulf Stream collapsed, right? So that means we are, as you said, like it would be more like cold, right? But at the same time, because the system is not at one place, because it is the whole planet, and how all the things are interacting with each other actually, still we don't know so many things, right? So yeah, I mean there are some open questions which you don't know, and we need to understand them, right?
Yeah.
Is it possible to use data that you collect from your models to work with different organisations, health-based or food-based, and let them know if they're going to face an issue?
Yes. So actually, what happens? I mean, we.
I wonder whether you could repeat the question, because I'm not sure whether everybody will have heard it.
Yeah. So I mean, I think if I understood correctly, that you were saying that you can the data which you are producing through the models, can you just give it to the organizations who want to use it, right? Am I correct with that? Yes, we are happy to give that actually, because as long as people are like using our product, we are more happy, because it's something which is sort of gives you motivation to work in more detail actually, right? There are some people or some person who are going to look into it. So yes. And we are already, I mean, through the project actually we are giving those data. So it's not that we are not giving, but it's like we would be happy to make it available to as many as people we can. Yeah.
Do you know? So I was thinking, so it's kind of linking to that question and thinking about the model that you showed that was mapping the hurricane. How would the relevant people use that information to? So would they use like an old model of an old hurricane to see how it impacts like future, or they have like a future model that will help them to?
Yeah. So.
Could you hear the question at the side there? You could.
Yeah, just how they would work that into future like emergency planning for like.
Yeah. So actually, suppose three things are important. One is if you know the intensity, if you know the frequency, and if you know how much it is going to cover, like surface inundation. If you know the three things that is going to affect, I mean, people are concerned with that. So there are the models actually, which actually do the surface inundation. So there are three categories of model. One is the model running on the global scale, giving you the track of the hurricanes and giving you the frequency of the hurricanes, that how much hurricane you are going to expect. But that model are integrated when you're talking about the surface inundation. So these informations are already there, and people at some places, most of the coastal places, they are using it, especially the government agencies, they are using it, right? Yeah.
Anyone else? I suppose the only question I have one question about this, which is when you present models, these very powerful models with these very strong visuals.
Right.
Sometimes when you get critics or people who are more sceptical,
Yeah.
They will argue that you're putting in the variables that, you know, suit an agenda. Sometimes that's an accusation that's made around the visualisation. I'm not suggesting you do that.
Yeah.
But when, if you get people who are saying, well, how do you choose the variables that you're including and which ones are you excluding? Is it difficult to explain to policymakers and those people who James was talking about, the change makers, to give them confidence about the reliability of the predictive model? Or do you get skeptics saying, well, you know, you can make a model do anything you want it to do?
No, as I said, like, you know, these models are based on the fundamental laws of physics. So you are not doing something which you are random things into it.
You're using historic data from different bits. I mean, you're using physical models rather than,
Yeah. So when we say the historical data, that means what we are trying to do with the historical data, just trying to see how good our models are in the present day. So if we have a reliability that how good our models are for today compared to the historical data, then we can say, look, this is the probability that what you are going to expect. We can't say for each and everything, because as you know that as the time integrates, your chaos, you know, happens. So with time, actually, with integration time, the error grows. So if we have, you know, the quantum computers actually, which are, you know, people are working on that someday, then it would be pinpointingly would be saying that this is where you are going to look at. But here we are going the information that this is the probability. And we can, like scientists actually can give you like, you know, these things, the ranges. And it is to the policymaker and the government to make the choices and try to see those things.
And presumably you're in a position now to be able to predict and then after the event check the reliability of the prediction and then refeed that into the model.
Yes, that is.
So you've actually got data sets now which you can check the predictive reliability.
Yeah, that is called as, you know, detection and attribution actually in the climate science. So basically if any event happened, then you have run the model already and then you can just feedback and, you know, tell that how good your models are for that event, right? Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much indeed, Raj.